The magnetism that remains after the force that brought it about is removed. When non-dot current sets the core to the binary 1 state, the residual property keeps it that way indefinitely. Suppose there is a second pulse of non-dot current. It will have no practical effect on the core because the core is already saturated with positive magnetism. But if we send current through the other way, into the dot side of the winding, then, of course, the core's state will change. To block the effect, we'll extend our graph. With dot current, we're applying a negative magnetizing force represented by minus H. Negative flux density is symbolized by minus B. We need a certain amount of negative magnetizing force to overcome the existing positive residual magnetism in the core. The amount needed is called the coercive force. At this point, the material contains no magnetism. The flux density is zero. Adding more negative magnetizing force produces a negative flux density. And again, the core is brought to a state of saturation, negative saturation. If we reduce or stop the magnetizing force now, there will be little effect on the flux density of the core. The pH curve returns to zero on the horizontal magnetizing force scale, but it remains at almost the saturation level on the vertical flux density scale. In other words, there is residual magnetism in the negative direction too. Therefore, when dot current is set into the core, magnetism builds up and the core is set to binary zero. Residual property keeps it there. To switch the core, we apply a positive magnetizing force. Not first to cancel out the negative residual magnetism. That is, to act as a coercive force in the opposite direction. And then, by adding more positive magnetizing force, we can bring the core material back to a state of positive saturation. We have now plotted the positive and negative magnetization of the core. The original S-shaped curve is produced only when we are first magnetizing the core from a completely unmagnetized state. From then on, we're concerned only with the rectangular loop, which tells us the limits of saturation that can be reached with dot and non-dot current. Also, the amount of magnetism that will remain in the core after the current stops. The word hysteresis comes from a Greek word meaning knekelhuis. Hysteresis loop, therefore, shows how much magnetism remains behind after the force that produced it is gone. The shape of the loop indicates the ability of a particular core material to retain magnetism. Shallow, rounded loop, low residual magnetism. A core of this type obviously requires less force during the switch from one state to the other.